Start recording. All right. Smile to the camera.
Hey.
All right, we're looking good. And we begin. 3 and 2 and 1 and go. Welcome to episode number 56 of Black, White, and Blue in the South, the podcast discussing Democratic politics with a Southern flair. I'm Bill Kimmler.
I'm Jamil Brooks.
And we're coming to you from Greenwood, South Carolina, a little red county in a very red state.
My God.
If you like what you hear and think others ought to be listening as well, then you need to hit pause right now and leave a rating for our show. Write a little review. Tell your friends about us. Interact with us on social media. Or better yet, send some thoughts and prayers to Minnesota State Republican lawmaker Justin Eichorn, who authored a bill to make Trump derangement syndrome an officially listed mental illness. Did you hear about that law?
I did not.
This is in Minnesota. This is what the Republicans are doing. They actually put into law. This is how they defined it, right? So according to the Palm Beach Post, Bill SF 2589 in Minnesota describes the so-called Trump derangement syndrome as the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons that is in reaction to the policies and presidencies of President Donald J. Trump. Symptoms may include Trump-induced general hysteria, which produces an inability to distinguish between legitimate policy differences and signs of psychic pathology in President Donald J. Trump's behavior. They actually wrote this up and submitted it to be passed. So this bill made me curious to learn more about State Senator Justin Eichorn.
Okay.
So here's a little clip from one of his ad campaigns, and then I want you to keep listening for what comes after his ad. You ready?
Yeah.
Here's Justin Eichorn's ad campaign.
Okay.
Every Sunday night during session, I say
Look at you
goodbye
roll
to my
your
wife
eyes.
and kids and make the 3-hour trek to St. Paul to fight for our way of life, because day after day, it is under attack from Metro liberals.
A Minnesota state senator just arrested, accused of soliciting a minor for prostitution. 40-year-old Senator Justin Eichorn is a Republican representing Grand Rapids. Bloomington police say that detectives posed as a 16-year-old girl and arranged to meet with him in Bloomington.
Run that back.
Arrested after arriving
Let me
in the
get
area
the part where they was on the dock. Go back.
You want to watch that again?
Yeah, I want.
All right, so now that you know the spoiler ending, you want to watch this again. All right.
Yeah, I want you to take me right to the part where he was
We're
on the
going to be
docks.
here recording for 3 hours anyway,
Okay.
so we can watch all these videos as many times as you want. I ain't going nowhere. Here we go.
Every Sunday night during session,
Sunday
I
night.
say goodbye to my wife and kids
Wife
and
and
make
kids.
the 3-hour trek to St. Paul to fight for our way of life.
Our way of
because
life.
Day after day, it is under attack from Metro liberals.
Apparently, the Metro liberals won't let him sleep with a 16-year-old girl. Darn Metro liberals. How dare they?
You hit all the buzzwords, and then the next thing is you had to assume the position. Well, damn.
Boy, according to Newsweek, Eichorn has taken a conservative stand against young children learning about gender diversity and sexual orientations. Following his arrest, he has not received any support from the Republican caucus within the Minnesota State Senate, who said they were shocked by these reports and demanded his immediate resignation, which he did give. But you know what? It'd be really nice if the South Carolina
I was gonna say that.
Republicans would have taken such a stance against one of their own
Yeah.
who is under federal investigation for possessing child pornography.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you think by dropping us a note at blackwhiteblueinthesouth@gmail.com. Send us your comments, questions, and topic ideas. You know where you can find us? You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. You can also watch this entire podcast and see Jason Eichorn or Justin Eichorn's smiling face on our YouTube channel. So you can go check that out if you wish. So look at those award-winning show notes Well, you will find links to all of those sites and more, and you will become a lot more educated. Oh. All right, do we just wrap up recording now? Is that enough for a show?
That was a lot.
I think that's enough. I'm exhausted already just from that one guy. Well, before we get into our show, I want to extend a special thank you to Carolyn and Philip Dennis, who shared such a remarkable story with us on our last episode. Their tale about the unexpected journey to Gander, Newfoundland has been the talk of the town. We've received so many compliments about what an amazing episode that was. I can't wait to let everybody down with this episode, right? How do you follow that
We
up?
can only go up from there. Down is not an option for us.
I don't know. I don't know about this one. You see, Jamil, today's show is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
This show is either going to be one of the best shows we ever do or a show that is best forgotten.
Oh, my gosh.
It's going to be different. You see, instead of our normal coverage of the news and other fun things that happen throughout the week or whenever we last recorded, no guests today.
Okay, no guests.
No news topics today. We're going to focus on one subject and one subject only.
Let's do it.
And that subject may take us more than 2 hours to cover. I kid you not. But it's going to be a test of endurance, both for us in recording and for the listener in listening. So put on that pot of coffee, get some brew going, do some Red Bull.
Yeah.
You're going to want to pay attention to every minute of this because I can guarantee you one thing. From minute 1 to minute 1,000, it's going to be entertaining.
Wow.
I kid you not.
So should this replace the Saturday morning cleaning songs, that playlist that you have? Maybe we should just make sure everybody plays this on Saturday morning, because they'll have about 2 hours to clean the house with us in their background playing.
Well, I don't know how messy your house is. Doesn't take me no 2 hours to clean on a Saturday.
It doesn't take 2 hours for you to give a real good clean?
No.
You're not cleaning anyway. What are you talking about? It's not even you.
When my house gets dirty, I just put up for sale and buy a new house. I don't got time for cleaning. You kidding me? Well, anyhow, if you didn't already have South Carolina politics derangement syndrome, you are going to have it after this episode, because the one topic we're going to dive into is the 21-hour budget debate that occurred in the South Carolina State House 2 weeks ago. It took over the course of 3 days, and they debated their budget. And let me tell you, the drama was through the roof.
Wow.
There was backstabbing. There was bonding and breaking of bonds and forming alliances and breaking alliances and direct attacks and snarky attacks and eye gouging and hair pulling.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, okay, maybe not those last two things.
I got excited.
But I tell you, there was more drama than you would find in any Real Housewives season.
Wow.
In these 3 days. And I kid you not, and I'm telling you, you will not be underwhelmed by what you hear coming up.
Okay.
And it only builds to the greatest climax, the greatest speech I've ever heard occurred at the end of this whole thing.
Okay.
So I took those 21 hours and I condensed it down to 19 hours. I was able to get rid of all the fat.
Wait a minute. I hope you did less than that.
No, I got it down. So either you're going to love this episode or you're going to want to skip it and come back to us in a couple weeks. And that's perfectly fine.
But make sure you come back, because this is going to be some good stuff, I'm sure.
So they debated over the course of 3 days the 2026 state budget. So here's our special for today.
Okay.
Your South Carolina representatives at work.
You don't get tired of that, do you?
No, I don't.
Wasn't that awesome? So this is a special episode about your South Carolina State House lawmakers, of which there are 124. Most of them were present for this budget. I think a few didn't attend due to other obligations or whatnot. And nearly all of them got to speak at some point during this budget debate.
Okay.
You would think budgets are boring. It's how many dollars to this, how many dollars to that. But no, this went wild.
Okay.
So many words, and I'm going to share them with you today. So buckle in. You're about to go on a roller coaster ride of political fighting like you've never experienced before.
Yay.
So let's get started, shall we? On the morning of Monday, on the morning of Monday, March 10th, State House Speaker Merle Smith, now he controls the show. He's got the gavel.
Yeah.
He gavels in and kicks things off, and you can tell right away it is not off to a good start right from the very first minute.
Okay.
Members, I have been advised, members listen up. I've been advised that we have had a number of amendments dropped on the desk just a few minutes ago. And members, we asked y'all to please, if you had amendments, to put them on the desk. So now we've got to in order for us to be able to proceed through the budget, we're going to have to let the desk go through this and assign the amendments to the appropriate section. So we can't close sections because we don't know whether we have amendments. So it's going to take about how long, Clerk? At least 30 minutes, Clerk tells me. So, guys, this is why we asked to do this. So the body will stand at ease until we can get through there. Mr. Mark Smith, for what purpose you rise?
How many amendments were dropped, sir? How many amendments were just dropped, sir?
I haven't. We're still trying to count, Mr. Smith, so we don't know yet. We'll let the body know when they get them assigned.
And now they're standing at ease. Little sign comes up. They are at ease. By the way, they stood at ease for over an hour.
Oh, wow.
So right off the bat, they were delayed by an hour.
Oh, my goodness.
Now they're coming back.
Members, we're in a position where we can... Well, let me ask you, anyone else got amendments right now? Because we just got a bunch more put up on the desk. So if you got amendments that you intend to offer, please let us know. But what we're going to do is get to the 1A right now, and then that allows us to start while they're working through the 1Bs. So if you does anyone have any 1A amendments? All right.
So would you call that getting off to a good start, Jamil?
That's trash. That's ridiculous. So my question, the moment he said, we ask y'all, I went, okay, so we're just not going to follow instructions. But are we intentionally not following instructions? Is that a strategy to
very
drop them
good
late?
question. The answer is yes. So where did all of these last-minute amendments come from? Well, I bet you didn't know this, Jamil. There are 3 political parties in the South Carolina State House. You know them?
You're going to have the Democrats.
You got the Democrats.
Got the Republicans.
You got the Republicans.
And then I'm going to say you got MAGA because I've separated them.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of the Republicans are MAGA themselves.
You think so?
They are, but there is another group called the South Carolina House Freedom Caucus.
Oh, they extra MAGA.
They extra. They put the MAGA. I mean, they're really far out there. They're a group whose full membership is actually kept a secret. There's no website you can go to. They don't publicize it on their Facebook page. There is no list where you can go find who are the members of the Freedom Caucus. Some of them are very vocal about being Freedom Caucus members.
That's almost like
others are kind of secret. But they do meet. They do poll together. Then they worked on a whole bunch of amendments and dropped them last minute just as they were about to get to work.
That's a little KKK-ish to me with all the secrecy.
So there's about 13, 20 members, and they are a fringe group of Republicans who would throw themselves into a wood chipper for their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. I kid you not. Sorry. Are you drowning here? We're only in minute number 15.
I'm going to tell you something else I thought about this particular version of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever it is, whatever that objective is, as long as it is pro-Trump, if it is on that Titanic, if that is the Titanic, they are going out. They're that band that keeps strumming as the ship is sinking. Like, they're not giving up on these things.
No. And by the way, nobody, and I mean nobody, likes them.
Gosh.
They are reviled by the rest of the Republicans and, of course, by the Democrats. So next up is their leader, a guy named Representative Jordan Pace. He's from Berkeley County. Now, Jordan Pace is actually the least offensive of the bunch. He is a young, decent-looking guy. He's got a gentle manner of a Mormon who's going door to door trying to convert. He just looks like a good old American boy, but he talks calmly, patiently, respectfully. But he is the leader of this group.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's in sharp contrast to his political views when you hear them spoken. but he speaks it in a very gentle, professional, courteous manner. So when they want to do a good cop, bad cop, he's the good cop.
Okay.
Right? And there are others we're going to hear from that plays the role of the bad cop. So here's Jordan Pace to explain the purpose of all the amendments that he and his group just dropped out of the blue.
My goodness.
Before we get to the amendment, I wanted to lay out kind of the grander vision of what we're aspiring to do today.
Student body president.
As we get into these amendments, and we have a few of them, the goal is to create what would be the largest tax cut in state history, to the tune of about 18%, dropping our state income tax rate from 6% to 5%. In totality, to do that, we need to cut about $1 billion. If we're going to cut taxes this boldly, obviously, we have to cut government just as boldly. Before we spend taxpayer dollars on projects and corporate handouts, growing bureaucracy, we have to make sure that we're getting the fundamentals right, and that is infrastructure, justice, education, courts, the first things first. So if we're going to deliver in those areas, then everything else is a distraction until we get those.
He's
first
using
things
your
right.
word. It's a distraction.
It's a distraction.
So, to make this tax cut a reality, we have to make the government smaller, and obviously much smaller, about $1 billion smaller. So that means eliminating waste, shutting down unnecessary programs, and refusing to fund agencies and initiatives that that frankly don't serve the people the way that most of our voters want us to serve the people. So this is not just a trim, it is a fundamental reshaping of the way that we think about government. Just as President Trump has proved in Washington, we can cut the red tape and put the people first. When you do that, the economies thrive, businesses grow, and families prosper. My hope is that we'll look at this with clear eyes, again, without partisan, without caucus lenses, and just look at it, is it good policy? If it is, let's support it. If not, well, we can disagree. But with that, I will turn this over to my colleague to speak on the First Amendment.
So he sounds very rational, right? Very calm. It's like, okay.
Yeah, but whenever they say what our voters want, and then they follow it up with a statement in there that talks about Trump and how he's taking care of the voters, I know that you're not talking about all your voters.
No, they are leaving out quite a bit of the voters. So with that theme announced, the next 3 days and 20 hours were spent on those amendments, primarily from that Freedom Caucus who dropped them all last minute. Most of that time was spent on those amendments. They literally would have been done in 3 hours and got the budget and gone home if it wasn't for these Freedom Caucus amendments. So who are the Freedom Caucus heels? Who are the bad guys? Because this is a story with good guys and bad guys and guys in between. Who are the heels? If Jordan Pace is the polite, gentle face, who are the villains?
Okay.
First up is Representative Joe White from Newberry County.
Okay.
He's an older guy who comes across like actor Joe Pesci without the charm.
Okay.
All right. So if you don't know who he is, that's what he looks like.
Okay.
He's also the same guy who co-sponsored a bill calling for the death penalty of women who get abortions. Like from day one, you get an abortion, he signed up and says you should be charged with murder. So this is Joe White. The very first amendment, the very first proposed cut to the budget that was submitted is about tuition mitigation. So we have, I think, 17 public universities and colleges throughout South Carolina.
Okay.
And we have helped those colleges, I'm talking about we the taxpayers, keep their tuition stable for the last X number of years.
Yes.
So it's called tuition mitigation, and the budget puts a significant sum of money to these colleges to keep their tuitions level for in-state South Carolina students. Hey, you come from out of state, we're going to rake you over the coals.
Yeah.
You're spending money.
Yeah.
But if you're in-state, we're going to try to keep your tuition. So here's Joe White talking about getting rid of that part of the budget with his amendment.
Mr. White's recognized. Explain amendment. You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sat in my easy chair at home and watched a lot of what the Ways and Means Committee
Sat in
did
his easy
this year.
chair.
I only have two things that really did concern me as I watched various subcommittee hearings. And I'm going to talk about one of them on Amendment 1. Actually, you're going to get to hear me, if we have a lot of success today, talk about each of the 17 public universities.
17 amendments, one per university.
Funds for. It just so happens that in alphabetical order, the Citadel comes first. I'm here to ask the House budget be amended to eliminate the money in H 4025 designated for tuition mitigation. The total of that money is $53 million. Tuition mitigation perverts one of the foundational tenets of free market capitalism. Tuition mitigation opens the door to inefficiency and forces taxpayers to shoulder the burden of inflated higher education budgets. Eliminating tuition mitigation will allow market forces to function properly. Eliminating tuition mitigation will incentivize cost cutting. Eliminating tuition mitigation will reduce the overall size of state government. I think that we need to end that, and after we finish with the Citadel, I'll go to some of y'all's favorite university, Clemson, to talk about how much I want to mitigate from there. So thank you. Any questions?
Now, Joe White spoke for 10 minutes. I cut it down just to those 2 minutes that you heard here. So just down to the essentials. But trust me, you didn't miss anything. He just rambles. And you can tell he's reading a prepared speech that was written by somebody else. And I'm guessing somebody at a national level. Because they're doing the same thing in all the red states throughout the country. And I'm betting he's just reading a prepared script that other representatives in other states are reading the exact same words.
You know, when he said that, well, first, who was it? Pace.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you want to write these names down.
He went in order. Don't forget these people. They need something else to do. But he went in order and he said infrastructure, justice, and education. Those are the things, those were the priorities. This confirms what I've been saying from the beginning. They care more about the property than they do the people. You have infrastructure and justice, and then you get to education. And when you get to education, clearly it's not really that much of priority because you just said you wanted to cut the opportunities for people to get in the door. Why do that? What was the outcome of the committee that did the research for Governor McMaster's to see if South Carolina had too many colleges and universities? How does that relate to the recommendation now to say let's cut it?
It didn't get into this at all. There was no recommendation to close or consolidate any of those schools.
Yeah.
But the pattern that we're going to see throughout this show is that one of the Freedom Caucus members will get up, read a crazy amendment to, hey, well, let's chop off $53 million here. Let's chop off something else there. And then they'll open up for questions. So anybody from the audience, any of the other representatives, can then ask a question. Now, it's optional. They don't have to take questions.
Yeah.
But whoever's up at the well can take questions, and then they get into a conversation.
Even if you don't take it, someone can ask you to take a question.
Correct.
Okay.
So here's the first question from another Republican, not a Freedom Caucus member. His name is Representative Chris Wooten. So he has a question for Joe White.
Okay.
Wooten is recognized for a question. Mr. Wooten.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. White, I appreciate your work on this. I got a few questions just to kind of line this thing up. How long have y'all, you whoever introduced this amendment, how long has this amendment been on the forefront, or how long has this alternative budget been in the plan is my question.
You know, I looked at the hearing that Representative Ballantyne had a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to him several times about that hearing. There were several university presidents and people that came in front of the committee.
Now notice, has he answered the question?
There was only one
They're good at it.
that actually had a formula for how they wanted to, how much they needed per student. Only one. Out of 17 universities, only one actually had a formula. That was the president of Lander University.
Okay, but the question was just for you, how long have you had this amendment?
How long have I had this amendment?
Yes, sir.
I worked on it all last week. I finished it late this morning. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning. I finished my work on this amendment. I've got pages of the data that I have researched to come up with what I'm proposing today. So I actually submitted the amendment this morning.
What's your background in accounting and dealing with $3 million of Citadel funding? How can you, where did you get your formulas?
Where did I get my formula?
Or your experience in how to draw this amendment up? Because I know that we have a staff of people that work 365 days a year to work on this budget. So I'm just asking I want to qualify, with all due respect, Mr. White, I want to qualify what gives you the ability to know how to deal with $3 million of Citadel funds and then what's going to end up being $14 million of discretionary funds at some point, I can imagine.
My expertise is I'm a tax-paying citizen. I ran a business. I know how to look at budgets. I know how to look at dollars. I know how to eliminate dollars that are unnecessary. And I believe in free market capitalism. And I believe that our education system is out of control a little bit.
Who sent him up there? I'm mad at them for putting him on that block like that.
Trust me, by the end of this, he will be the one you're least mad at.
Okay.
Joe White is...
I'm mad at the person who encouraged him to go.
He's a clown. But so there were two objections that Wooten raised. He says, look, you barely worked on this amendment. We've had staff work on it all year, and you've got no qualifications. You're just making your numbers up. Well, as a taxpayer... it's that sense of entitlement. It's kind of like you're pulled over by the police and you say, I pay your salary. Right?
It's the typical surface response that they have.
Yes. Yeah, that's where they live. You hit it right on the head. They live on the surface.
That's it.
And meanwhile, everybody else is down in the depths working their butts off for the actual numbers.
Yeah.
So this is the pattern that you're going to see. You're going to see one side that used staff, expert testimony, many months of work and research. And on the other side, you have nothing more than an ideology, right? They've done no homework or whatever homework they did. They just turned it in last minute.
Yeah.
Did you also note that other pattern? Ask a question, answer something completely different.
Got to be good at that.
This is the most frustrating part to me. I'm sitting there yelling at my screen going, answer the damn question.
Yes.
They're not answering it.
Yeah. But these are the same people who during the presidential debates kept going, well, you ask Kamala a question and she's not answering the question. All she has to do is just answer the question. So they understand what it is to ask a question and not get an answer, but they're never ready to give an answer.
So let's fast forward a bit. Representative Nathan Ballantyne from Richland County.
Okay.
He gets up to the podium and then he's explaining why this money is necessary for college and tuition mitigation to keep these public schools up and running.
Yeah.
And then Representative Joe White gets to ask him a question.
Oh, God.
Oh, and it doesn't go well. Here we go.
White's recognized for a question.
You just said that this money is to go for things like mental health and safety. That's what you said, right?
It can go for a lot of things. Whatever keeps the college up and running and keeps our kids safe and gives them an education.
I'm looking at our budget, and it says 117-152, the following recurring funds have been appropriated in Part 1A to institutions of higher learning to mitigate tuition and fee increases for in-state undergraduate students. It doesn't say anything about mental health. It says it's to mitigate in-state tuition for undergraduates.
I'm sorry.
So,
you want me to explain that for you so you'll understand it?
Please
sure
help
need
him.
Somebody to explain to me how the tuition rate has something to do with how much we spend for safety and mental health.
And they're all laughing behind
Do you know
him.
how the colleges support themselves primarily?
Pardon?
Through tuition.
What?
So the colleges, how they support themselves. So if they do not get that additional funds, they've got to come up with somewhere. So what are they going to do? They're going to pass it on to the students to pick it up.
I
and
think
so
that's
what they need.
I think that's the point.
I don't think I can explain it to you.
Well,
I'm sorry.
We'll
I think others get it. I don't know.
Thank you.
This is the level, like we talk about imposter syndrome and people not feeling qualified to run for office. This guy has no idea that tuition is used to pay university expenses, programs like mental health and educators and the food and all these other things. He has no idea.
No clue. But you got all those pages of research and data that you collected to make sure that your amendment was ready. You just forgot to read what it included.
So when you have such a fundamental non-understanding of how something works, why do you jump in and make a law about it? Well, that's the Freedom Caucus way. If I don't know, I'm going to be the loudest one in the room to let you know I don't know.
But this is what I call willful ignorance. It's not that they are not capable of digging.
You wait.
You think it's gonna get worse?
Oh, it does get worse.
Keep going.
You're talking that they're intentionally doing this? No, I truly think this is where they are.
Oh my gosh.
This is where they are. You're not getting the best and brightest South Carolina has to offer with some of these things.
This is scary.
All right, so they went through the 17 colleges and universities. So we're going to play all of them right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
You got the idea from the first one.
Yeah.
So they were tabled.
Okay.
Tabled means we're not going to consider this any further. I don't know where the phrase comes from. It seems like an odd phrase.
Okay.
But they tabled it, and that's one of the ways that they shot down these amendments. We're going to talk about another way in a little bit. But one way is that they all vote.
Mm-hmm.
And they vote. Somebody makes a motion. I motion to table this amendment. They all then get up and vote.
Yeah.
And these tuition mitigation amendments were voted down. So
Okay.
they were all tabled. The debate moved on, and they ended up in a section of the budget about the state library system.
Uh-oh.
Well, you're not getting good feelings here, are you?
Mm-mm.
So here, Representative Gil Gatch, now this is a name we're going to hear a lot of. He's from Dorchester County. He is asking a question of the Freedom Caucus leader. His name is?
Pace.
Jordan Pace. All right, so Jordan Pace is at the podium, and Gil Gatch is asking him a question about his defunding of the library.
I had a question, not unlike the question we asked, that was asked to Mr. White. When was this amendment brought up before Ways and Means?
This amendment cuts one personnel request from the state library, so we can save $487,000 to get to the mark, so we can cut the income tax.
All right, I have to pause right there. Two things. One, question asked, was it answered?
No.
No. So the question was when. He didn't give a when. Then he also said cut one personnel for how much?
400.
You know anybody in the state making $400,000?
No.
So do you think that maybe he is misunderstanding the budget that he is trying to cut? I'm going to go out on a limb and think maybe he's completely misrepresenting or
maybe
misunderstanding.
he's creating that distraction that he spoke about earlier.
Right.
To 5%.
Yeah, but my question is you mentioned before in your speech before you handed the mic over to Mr. White that you're trying to do the greatest tax cut in history. I believe that you said it's a fundamental reshaping of government. So is this the first time that anybody's had a chance to see it? The largest tax break in South Carolina history, a fundamental reshaping, is the first time we've gotten to see this today, like you just threw all of this fundamental reshaping on the desk today? Or did you have a chance to go before Ways and Means, sort of coordinate with them how this would affect the budget?
I'm not on Ways and Means, Mr. Gatch.
Does that mean that you refuse to even go to the Office of Ways and Means
No,
to have
sir.
a conversation
What that
with them?
means is this is when I have a vote on this measure, and that's frankly when I can leverage my one vote on this measure. This is part of the process just as much, if not more, than the committee process is here on the floor. Historically, this is where we debated these things, and this is the most transparent place to do it, where it's streamed, because as we heard during the rules discussion, not all committees are streamed to the public and recorded and archived to the public. This is. So that's why I want to cut this position to add to that stack to get us to that 5% rate, the 18% cut to our income tax.
Well, speaking of the process, Mr. Pace, I mean, you can go to the Ways and Means chairman, did you know, or the Ways and Means staff to coordinate with them on.
Now, this is where we actually needed to have a little marker. We need to record how many times they said, did you know?
Did you
Remember,
know? Did you know?
They have to ask everything in terms of the
Did you know?
question. So
Did you know?
everything is, did you know?
Did you know? Did you know that Mr. Pace just confirmed that his strategy was to catch everybody off guard? He did not follow other procedures. He just brought all of those amendments and dropped them and said, I wanted to make sure that since this was recorded, that it will be heard. And the only thing that he keeps giving you is one-worders, one-liners that says, I want to cut this. And he led people to believe that one person, as you stated, made $400 and something thousand a year. It's strategic.
How any cut, whether it be a single person or multiple things, because you guys have brought now many requests and cuts and changes to the body. Did you know that a part of the process isn't simply just throwing the most fundamental tax cut in state history on the desk minutes before we take it up? It's going to the Ways and Means chairman to discuss how that's going to affect the bigger picture. Did you know that?
What we're discussing here is to cut almost $500,000 from the state library so we can get to that $1 billion mark to cut the income tax.
So it sounds like the answer to my question is, in fact, no, you didn't coordinate with anybody. You just laid this on the desk and you wanted to talk about it here so the cameras could be on you guys, but to actually coordinate with the people who are behind the scenes, the staff, which is the way every committee works, and the chairman, who is Mr. Bannister, you didn't do any of that. So that answers my question. My second question was...
Well, I'll answer your question if you'll let me.
I think if you'll let me. I answered it for you from what you said.
Well, I'll answer your question if you'll let me. The purpose of us being here is not to trust the experts. It's to trust our constituents. And I believe my constituents want us to cut the income tax by 18% so they can keep more of their money, and they would rather keep more of their money than have 120 or so families pay their whole tax burden to fund this one position of the library.
So we should just ask the staff and all the experts to go home because they don't know what they're talking about. Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. I welcome their input.
Sounds like that's what you're saying.
I don't know, for $500,000, that person better be writing all the books that go into the library.
Got to be.
Nobody in this state makes that money in law. So, no, he's completely misunderstood, and they bring that up later. But a couple of things I took away from Jordan Pace's response. We're not here to trust the experts.
You heard that. But we said that back in episodes like in the 30s. We were talking about how this particular body refuses to respect the experts on everything. And I think we had that discussion when we were talking about healthcare.
Well, you can start to hear the snarkiness flow as Gil Gatch kept throwing Jordan Pace's words back at him.
I like
the fundamental reshaping of things. So here we are like an hour 2 or 3 of this debate, and they're getting really annoyed with the Freedom Caucus. And this is just day 1. So here's some more snarkiness as Representative Micah Caskey from Lexington starts to get into it with Jordan Pace.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I guess at the end of the day, Mr. Pace, what I'm trying to make sense of is, on one hand, you say that libraries ought not receive more dollars. On the other hand, you say you have no idea how the library operates. You don't know how many people use it. You don't know how many people work there. All you know is that the Charleston Library is great, and I don't dispute that with you. But you come before us and you say this $487,711 is for one position. And I would ask you, sir, since you wanted to debate this with the bold ideas you gave us in your soliloquy, tell me where in the budget it says that is one full-time equivalent.
Come on.
Because as I read the words on the page, it's not there. Did you know?
I did not know those things because they're not true. And what I said was, again, this has become a pattern, I'm afraid, that I did not say that libraries are not a worthy endeavor. I said I want to not give one library
That's not what he said.
in the state out of thousands one extra position that they requested. And maybe you didn't know this, I worked as librarian for a while in a private library.
You certainly didn't learn anything.
It was a great situation.
Well,
what you've been saying is totally false. It is not libraries. We're not attacking libraries. We're asking to shrink the size and scope of government. Actually, we're not even asking that. We're asking to just not add to the size and scope of government by not giving one new position to the state library that requested it. We're not taking away the state library. We're not shutting it down. We're not cutting their programs. We're saying, no, we're not going to grow this one aspect of government in order to let people keep more of their money. It's that simple.
It doesn't become more true, Mr. Pace, if you keep repeating the same thing, that this is one position, because the words on the page matter, and this is a problem that we've seen time and again with your caucus as you attempt to usurp everything that we know about the creation of law here by saying things like, well, it's more than one person. It is not, or excuse me, it's just one person. That is not what the words on the page say, and so the fact that you misrepresent it isn't something that we ought to hold dear to. But at the end of the day, I know other folks want to talk to you about this debate, for which you've offered nothing other than a dollar reduction for a function you say is a legitimate expenditure of the government, but I appreciate your time and your futile efforts.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with your tone and tenor of that, and hopefully we can get back to a place where we can discuss policy in a reasonable and civil way, which is ironic coming from the rules chairman. And with that, I'll step away.
All right.
Wow. Like, we didn't win our races. I don't know if I could have handled it in that room.
I know I couldn't have, Bill.
I mean, if I am up there and I ask a question, where did you see that there is just one position? And then he says, well, that's just false. I didn't say shut down the libraries. It's like,
I would not have.
I've divorced women over less than that.
Listen, I can envision like in a church and there's an usher that comes up and taps me on my shoulder and say, come with me, ma'am. I know that I would have lost it. The people have one question. You have allowed everyone who's watching to believe that there is one position in the library and that individual gets paid $407,000.
I think it was 490.
Was it 490?
Yeah. See, look, you're already working with them to cut the budget.
Oh, Jesus.
So anyhow, that amendment to cut that one position was voted down, so that was tabled.
And they keep saying so that taxpayers can keep their money. But people don't take these surface answers.
Okay. But you can hear how Jordan Pace is remaining calm.
Yes.
And he's like trying to be the good guy here.
Yes.
And let's get back to a respectable place,
Yes.
even though I'm just going to ignore everything you say.
Yeah.
Well, this is where he lost me. All right.
Oh,
So
okay.
here is a bold proposal from Representative Pace.
Okay.
This is one of those bold actions that we were talking about earlier. The Arts Commission has one small sliver of its purpose that I believe it's fulfilling on the educational side of its charter. What I'd like to do, and that we have an amendment in Section 1 to fulfill this, out of their total budget, they only spend less than $4 million on educational grants, arts education within our schools, amongst other places. But the rest of the Arts Commission has been, not fulfilling that mandate. So the rest of their multi-million dollar budget has been going to things like grants, tens of thousands of dollars in grants to things like the Upstate LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. The Greenville Gay Men's Chorus, tens of thousands of dollars in grants for operating, just to exist. Institutions like Pure Theater in Charleston, and many others. The vast majority of these grant recipients, again, millions of dollars in grants, are going to organizations that are frankly antithetical to the voters that most of us, the supermajority of us, represent. Millions of dollars in grants. So what we're doing in this amendment is removing those and essentially defunding the entirety of the Arts Commission, which is not a core function of government. So, put it very simply, do we want to reduce the income tax, or do we want to continue to fund, through these grants, the Upstate LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, the Greenville Gay Men's Chorus, things to thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to organizations that are frankly antithetical to the values of the people that most of us, the supermajority of us, represent?
So, it seems like when they want to have support to reduce something, they will give you exact numbers. Like you said, it's 490 something, right? They gave you exact numbers. But when they want to kind of gloss over and give you that surface because they have no substance there, they'll say tens of thousands of dollars. But if you follow what the GOP has been doing, they have always tried to, for years, it has been a thing to eliminate that Arts Commission. They've been fighting for the Arts Commission been fighting for their dear life for a while. This is one of those things that's on the Titanic, and they're going down with it because they're going to keep working it.
It's nothing like whipping out a little gay bashing to help make your cause too.
Let me just get it.
They don't mention any of the other arts programs that are getting defunded, but they go right after LGBTQ and gay and experimental theater, and that's like
because that's a trigger.
Yes,
it's a trigger.
It's a trigger. Anyhow. Representative Gil Gatch. You remember him?
Yay.
He comes back and he theorizes Why is the Freedom Caucus pulling all these stunts?
Okay.
What is their ultimate goal?
All right, let's
so
go.
here's Gil Gatch.
So what I'm trying to figure out with regards to this amendment exactly is what is it that you're trying to stand on? This is an amendment that I believe, like you did last year, you're going to get Mr. Beach to roll call it when we move to table it, and then you're going to take a picture of it like several members have done so far, and then somebody miraculously is going to send a text to my constituents saying that I'm for homosexual gummy bears to be distributed to kids at state libraries, which is absolutely ridiculous. So that's not what I call the process, if you don't mind, and I don't believe that you standing upon the bedrock of what you say is the core function of government for this argument is legitimate because we can see the way you voted in other areas on this budget.
Ooh.
So that's all that I have to say. Thank you so much for taking my question.
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you have homosexual gummy bears on your bingo card for things said during a budget debate?
No.
No? No, that's what I probably should have opened with. I should have given you a list of 5 phrases, and you had to guess which ones were actually said and which ones weren't, and then check them off as we go. You know what? Let's redo the show.
No, we're done. All right.
So let's
bears.
recap.
Yeah.
From the Freedom Caucus side, we've heard from Representative Joe White, who doesn't want to help with public college tuition.
Yeah.
We've heard from Jordan Pace, who wants to defund libraries and the arts.
Education.
Next up is Representative Josiah Magnuson.
Okay.
Well, there's a name for you there, right? He's from Spartanburg, and he's going to talk to us what he believes is the core function of government. So now we're going to get into a little poli-sci. We're going to get into a little philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had heard a line of questioning that I wanted to try to answer to the best of my ability here. And the question was in regards to what is a core function of government. And I realize this is a complicated question, and I'm happy to discuss further with any of you all.
No, I'm
but
good.
I'd like to
good.
hopefully give us a little bit of a perspective on civics and what government is here to do. So,
to a room
we
full of people,
as legislators swear an oath of office to uphold our state constitution and our U.S. Constitution. And we do that when we say, "So help me God." So there's 3 pieces of authority that dictate what we are here to do. We are here to honor God in what He has decided government is to do, first and foremost. We are here to uphold our U.S. Constitution, and we're here to uphold our state constitution. So if you look at the biblical purpose of government, the main reason we're here is justice. It's to defend the innocent. And you can think of justice as kind of being the sun around which a number of planets spin.
Yeah, I couldn't take any more of this guy.
That would be me buzzing me in. We should role play. Buzz me in. Gentle lady from Greenwood.
Oh, I was going to say mad-ass woman from Greenwood McCormick.
Did you know that we would prefer if you sit your ass down now?
Did you know? Yeah, if there was a
wasted time
odds that are being made on which guy is going to be caught up in another one of those federal stings, he's at the top of the list in my book.
Most definitely.
So he talks about religion and government and how their purpose is to be there is primarily to give glory to God. Yeah, he went past the church and went right into the state house.
He did.
Spencer Wetmore, Representative Wetmore. We talked about her in our last episode when she broadcast from a hurricane. You may remember that. She had a great response to Magnuson. Let's listen.
Okay.
Ms. Wetmore, did you have a question? Ms. Wetmore is recognized for a question.
In all of the sections of the Constitution you just read off, I noticed that you skipped Article 1, Section 2, which provides, of our state constitution, of course, which provides that the General Assembly shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
So
when
that's
you go
we're
through,
not supposed to do, so it's not a core function. That would be right. We
correct.
Can't make
So when
a
you
state
tell me that
nomination.
God's laws are what should direct the core functions of government, how does that relate to Article 2 of our state constitution, which we're discussing here as the most important bedrock?
I would say it relates in the sense that we, the people of the state of South Carolina, grateful to God for our liberties, to establish and create the Constitution of this state for the preservation of the same.
Thank you.
Which didn't answer the question.
At all.
No.
At all.
So I thought she had a great response.
She did really well.
And I did start to wonder at this point. I was like, all of these amendments that these Freedom Caucusers are throwing up there, they're getting shot down.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all getting tabled.
Yeah.
So why are we wasting time? Why does Spencer Wetmore feel the need to get up there and correct him? Why does Gil Gatch need to talk about gummy bears? You know, it's going to end up the same place anyway, voted and tabled.
Yeah.
Why spend the time?
Well, I kind of feel like, so I'm proud of both of them for actually having something to say back, because the Republicans are using this time to use as their platform and to spread and disseminate a message, no matter how inaccurate it is. And if you don't stand up and re-engage them and you allow that message to be the last thing that is heard, you allow that to start to alter the viewpoints of individuals. So you want to be the you want to be the last part.
First of all, do you think anybody's minds are being changed in this chamber, one way or the other? You think there's any fence sitters in there?
I don't think it's for the chamber.
Okay, so good. That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Yeah.
Had you heard any of these clips before today?
I haven't. I've been listening.
So again, and you're tuned in.
I'm in.
Right? You're tuned in.
But not to the budget
Think about the rest of the state. You think any of the state is listening to any of this?
No.
So who are they talking to?
But I don't think it is for the masses. I don't think it's for them. I think that they are trying to reach another population. Now, who that is and how they're going to get that message to them, I don't know. But it's not for the people that's in that room.
Right. Because in the room, the minds are fixed. There's no minds being changed. I learned that ages ago. You walk in with opinion, you walk out with the same opinion.
Yeah, but there's a conversion technique somehow, and it would be interesting to know. But I'm glad that when you ask that question, you are the last one with a comment on that topic.
Right. So this next amendment is actually the first one we're going to hear that did not come from the Freedom Caucus.
Okay.
It actually came from Democrat Heather Bauer.
Okay.
So she files an amendment and she gets up to speak on it. And I thought this was interesting.
Okay.
95, Representative Bauer.
Ms. Bauer is recognized to explain the amendment. Mr. McCravey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I know it's getting late. It wouldn't be budget week if we didn't talk about abortion, I guess. So today, this line item is to speak about the $2.4 million that go to crisis pregnancy centers, which are CPCs, organizations across the state that claim to support pregnant women. If you've not been to a Planned Parenthood or another women's center in this state and have not seen what happens, if we go back to the first picture real quick, sorry, happens in the parking lots, on the streets of these centers across the state, it is quite appalling. There's one just a few blocks away from outside of my district, and I go there because my chiropractor is right there. And I just happen to go in, and I see the volunteers trying to direct people into the center to get their medical care, and they are literally tricked into going into this RV that doesn't even say abortion on the outside, so you don't know why you're going in there. There's a sign at the bottom that says death with the arrow pointing to the medical center. So just from the get-go, we don't even know what's going on in the RVs. They can purchase their ultrasound equipment online. They have limited medical training. And I've since learned that they have to submit reports to the state. And I do have an example I would like to share. And here's my problem with this. We have no clear understanding of what they're using the money for. It's zeroed out. Unlike any other state-funded programs that provide detailed, transparent accounting of what they do, it's very vague at best. I see zeros. So my question as we move forward, I'm going to table this amendment. But as we continue this conversation on how these dollars are being used, I think we deserve to know what they're using their money on. Is it staff salaries? Is it marketing materials, direct services? How many people have they helped? What kind of resources and programming are giving these people? And I'd like to see evidence of what outcomes they have for pregnant women in our state too. So if we're as a state, going to require DHEC to submit detailed reports on its recycling policies and procurement procedures, if we require the Coordinating Council for Economic Development to track every dollar spent, we should do the same for them too. And with that, I'm going to table. It's about accountability, ensuring tax dollars are spent responsibly and transparently. And with that, I'm going to table my amendment.
Which I thought was interesting. So she gets up there and tables her own amendment, which I thought the amendment was a very good point. I mean, here you have money going to a program and no reporting that is of any substance coming back in return. And I think it's a fair request.
I don't know what to say.
I mean, there are millions that have been allocated to these crisis pregnancy centers. Here in Greenwood, we have the Crossroads Women's Center, which is one of those CPCs. And you may have seen their signs all over the place where they have a huge fundraiser coming up.
Ben Carson.
Featuring Dr. Ben Carson. They are offering sponsorships to the tunes of $10,000 per seat, as well as $5 seats. They're advertising this as date night for couples. Come hear an inspirational speaker, but they make a lot of money. And I'm wondering, why are they getting any public funding? They seem to be perfectly capable of raising money on their own through sponsorships, but we don't have any there's no transparency into these practices. To me, it sounds like this is just a financial shell system for the anti-abortion movement.
Yeah.
Because they could just be servicing 5 women a year. You would never know.
Yeah. And
you would never know.
Funneling that money somewhere else.
Exactly.
To accomplish other tasks. I said I didn't have anything to say because I'm trying to wonder why Representative Bauer would have tabled her own amendment.
Yes. Like, I get the idea of getting up to speak, even if you knew it was going to be tabled, right? But you get up and you have a message. But why do the self-tabling?
Yeah. And did you see Representative Gilda Cobb-Hunter, hand goes in the air, and Representative Bauer said, I'm going to table it. But Gilda Cobb-Hunter still had that hand in the air because there was something that she wanted to say about
You know what? We need to ask Representative Bauer that question personally.
We'll ask her.
Will you get her on our show?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool?
I think it would be great.
Okay, I'll ask her if
she had a great time here in Greenwood last time she was here.
I'll ask her if she got time for us.
Yes.
We'll
she'll say yes.
Okay.
She'll say yes.
We're going big.
Okay.
Just come. Yeah.
Well, anyhow, that was the end of day 1.
Okay.
End of day 1. So day 1 was 7 hours long.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Black, White, and Blue in the South. Bill and Jameel will be back in a few days to cover day 2 of this epic South Carolina budget debate. So stay tuned.
The end.